another episode. I got a good guest of mine today. His name is JJuan Wilson. I got to meet JJuan at an event that he hosted. What when was that? What December?
Yeah, in December.
In
Yep.
December.
Yep.
Me and Penn catered to JJuan for his event, and were able to attend as guests also, which was great. It was a great experience because I never been to anything like. So Jay he's a very big community person. This man right here been doing so many things that a lot of us don't know. Maybe people uh work with him who probably sit on so many different boards that you're a part of. They know your work. Guys like me, obviously I know bits and pieces, but if you guys don't know, this man right here, back in the '90s, he brought Jay-Z out here, the first guy to do that, to bring Jay-Z out here. He's worked with guys like A-Rap Music, he told me, and when I heard these names, I'm like, wow, I'm instantly drawn in. I'm like, wow, this guy's big, you know what I'm saying? But Jay, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how you got started, and what interested you in working with the community so hard, and going hard for the people.
So, so I'm definitely gonna let me tee up. So the Jay Z story. This is for Bad Lad. So Bad Lad and his crew technically brought Jay Z
Uh-huh.
to Providence prior. So I make sure I always talk about this. But when Jay Z started blowing up is when my team ended up bringing it. You know what I'm saying? Bringing him here. Shout out to Shay DePina, DMI, because that's who I worked with at the time.
Okay.
He was
Shout
the
out.
promoter, so I'm gonna give him his shout outs. I think this is the second time I gave him a shout out, even though we haven't spoken in over 20 something years.
Oh wow.
But I
Well,
want,
let's hope he hears this.
but I always give credit where credit's due,
Yeah.
regardless of us going different paths, because that's me, right?
Yeah.
Paying that's the paying homage. But we can fast forward to community work. I think I joined my first board. I was 24, 25. It was the Providence Black Repertory Company, downtown Providence. Shout out to Don King and the late Michael S. Van Leesten, who was my relative, and the bridge that is downtown is named after him.
Oh, the
Yes,
pedestrian
yeah,
bridge. Oh,
yep.
see,
So that's
y'all didn't
named
know
after him.
that. See
Yeah,
that?
so that's named after my cousin Mike. He's really core and why I started doing community and why I became a consultant. When I first met him, went to his office down at called Fleet Bank before it was Bank of
Mhm.
America. Now it's the Superman building. So he
Yeah.
had an office there. And I'm 14 and I come in, I'm like, who's this tall black dude? You know what I'm saying? In this like this is his space, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And it just intrigued me, and the fact that I was related to him. So he showed me what a consultant was, so that's why I do consultancy. And then later on, when he was the chair of the board for Black Rep, he asked me to come on the board, and so he exposed me to community work, right? And having a black theater,
Mhm.
we had black youth programs, and I was very pro black back then, since high school. Talk about Public Enemy and all
Yeah.
that, and
Power to the people.
yeah, so it was that type of feeling early on. But fast forward to 2014, is when I jumped back in full time into nonprofits. Reconnected with my mentor, Mike. He had reincarnated an organization called OIC.
Mm.
Don't ask me what the name is. It's something industrial. There's too many acronyms in nonprofits, right?
Yeah,
But
definitely.
but he reincarnated OIC. To give you a brief history, if you're familiar with CCRI in Providence, that was OIC. Mike
Okay.
Mike built that building, all minority contracts.
Oh, that's what's
And
up.
then eventually the Department of Education and Higher Ed purchased it. Now it's CCRI Providence,
Mm.
but that used to be the original OIC location. And so he reincarnated it. He asked me to come on board. I came on board, and we were doing some workforce development, doing reentry. Right,
Yeah.
some dudes coming in to different training for jobs. So
Mhm.
I came in, was helping with programs, and then I end up becoming like his second COO of OIC and really expanding on some ideas. But that's how I end up getting into the nonprofit space
So
then.
another question for me. What year was this that you got into it?
2014.
No, I'm saying when you started working consulting.
Oh, so when I
And
started consulting,
yeah.
I started doing that when I was out of high school. So out of high school, I graduated in 1993,
Okay.
Hope High School. 1994, um, 1994, I did graphic design in high school. 1994, I started doing graphic design for a company called Kinko's in FedEx office. And then I started freelancing. That's how I met Shay DePina from DMI,
Yeah.
doing flyers for his concerts. And then that's how I got into doing hip hop shows,
Yeah.
right? And then to get to 1996, I started consulting now on design, right? When I became a board member, um, I did a lot of freelance, and then it's like then people started coming to me for design work. So I've done like Hot 106. You see Hot 106, that logo, I did that logo. It's
Yeah,
still
but
the original logo.
let's speak of the real name though. Kicks 106,
All
right?
right, so it's Kicks one. So it's
Kicks
Kicks
106.
106 then, and they didn't play. It wasn't hip hop number one for hip hop and R&B. I created that logo. Shout out to Buck, DJ Buck.
DJ Buck.
Originally asked me to come asked me to design the logo, so I did it. It was Hot One. It was called Hot 106, number one for hip hop. And then shout out to Half Pint. Half Pint called me again. He goes,
Oh
one,
yeah, I used to listen to
one.
Half Point,
They
but
want to
yeah,
add R&B, so I redid the logo, amended it, put so now it's Hot 106, number one for hip hop and R&B.
yeah.
Um, and then when I did that logo, I got back into promotion. 2007, I ended up bringing Soldier Boy here for the first time, and that was through
And that was he was hot, right? That's
yeah,
when he was
when
blowing
he
up.
first got signed. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I brought him to that was 2007. Yeah, I got a really weird timeline with from promotions to marketing. I consulted Toyota for a number of years with the Scion brand, but I came out of that, like I said, in 2014, up to when I started to do community work.
Yeah. So the reason why I'm sorry to
Yeah,
cut you off. So the reason why I was saying what year, because when you're working in Providence, you probably agree with me. Um, probably went through it. Probably a lot of people who was in your way because Rhode Island and especially Providence is a lot of politics, and it's probably a lot of big mountains that you probably had to move.
quite a few. Yeah,
You
quite a
know,
few.
and you want to elaborate, like maybe tell the people not that easy.
Yeah, so it's not, but if you're persistent and consistent, that's what I tell people: stay consistent as much as possible, even if people don't like it, right? Because that's one of the things, people will conform and adapt based on public perception, right? And then when you're always trying to do that, the public always tries to create or control your narrative. I always try to get in front of my narrative, right? I always try to, like now, if someone wants to pull skeletons out my closet, I try to pull them out first, right? And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and they say, oh, you did this, you did that. All right, let's get some bones out, let's fence. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, not telling me anything I don't know, right?
Yeah.
I've done things, and no one's perfect,
You're
right?
not running from
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Before I was a little nervous, you know what I'm saying, to address that, but then I got comfortable in my own skin, right? And then self reflecting, and the reason why I'm saying that, because when we talk about brothers that come home and sisters that come home, like I don't lead with the hiccups in my life. Right? I don't lead with those challenges and from a deficiency, but that took time. Saying that took time. So I
Yeah,
don't want to see like everyone's like, well, you're different. You have these contacts and these networks. I see, yeah, I had to build these. Right. So my thing is I got out my own way. So I tell everybody else to get out their own way. And it's not easy. Like I said, I self-reflect. I look in the mirror and I critique myself. I'm like, "Damn, I shouldn't do that." Like there's always an issue, and I'm always the common person, right? Some people won't own up to that. They won't take like if I'm constantly having the same issue with different people, what's the common denominator?
it's
Me.
you.
You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying? So I got to really look at that situation and kind of, you know what I'm saying, just swallow my pride, apologize, you know what I'm saying, or just just deal with the situation and move on. Like I just want to move forward. I don't want to be anchored no more. So, and that includes me being stuck on stupid with myself, like just insecurities, no emotional intelligence. I still have a short fuse. I know now. I know not to get in those
but you're
situations.
human.
Yeah,
We all go through that. I don't care if you're angelic.
yeah.
You're gonna get mad.
You going to test it. Someone's going to test it. So I'm like, as you get older, you just don't put yourself in those situations. Like you're understanding that now. Like when you said you came to my event, I didn't know that was like your first event. You know, what I'm saying, like that style,
Yeah,
it was cool, man. It was cool. The vibe from you was cool. Like I say, meeting Penn years back, like you'll start to understand energy,
yeah,
right? You'll start to understand. So that energy also influences your circle. So like, there's a lot of people also in my circle, friends and family, that I really don't associate with anymore because they just have too much negative energy,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And it's like, and it drains from you. So, and then it's like if you try to help them, drains even more because they're really not trying to help themselves.
Yeah, it turns into a push and a pull,
Yeah.
and you got to find that middle ground. It's just like Buddhism. Once you learn how to find that middle ground and reach nirvana, is ever ending happiness.
We have to talk a little bit more about that
You
because
know?
I went to the Zen garden, right?
Yeah,
Japan, and I'm like, wow, this is not on the calendar. I'm actually here, right?
yeah,
Like, so it's like it's trying to find my Zen, right? Just looking into those pile of pebbles and like the wave. I'm like, really in a Zen garden, right? So I was in Kyoto. I went to Tokyo, Kyoto, Nagoya, and but just bring what you said, like this. The reason why I'm bringing that up because the word they call kaizen, which means continuous improvement. So when I work for Toyota, it's applied towards manufacturing, like manufacturing the car, like constantly always improving technology. And when I talk about self reflection, I took that same motto, applied it to myself.
yeah.
So I'm dealing with kaizen, continuous improvement on myself. So I tell everybody, you'll see. Sometimes I'll tag it. I said, "Well, I said that was a big word in business. It's about productivity and moving forward." And so now I apply that to myself. So I'm always looking for continuous improvement, never to be perfect,
Yeah.
but I'll strive for perfection.
You
Right?
always try to be better than you were yesterday.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I try to do too. Being in the position in life, um, what basically life handed me and what decisions I made and the stuff I dealt with and had to go through. And I was just never them guys who just gave up. Yeah, I went back in, and more years, and I think that second trip really opened my eyes. And it's crazy because some people would think, all right, the first trip you went, you did a big chunk of time that should have made you whatever person. But you know what? Sometimes it's almost like a fairy tale. It doesn't go accordingly. The way you think is gonna go. I came home chasing lost time. I came home trying to fit in with these times. Trying to still prove myself to people who only knew of my name. So I felt like I had to go extra hard. But then I was just going being extra stupid. You know what I'm saying? But my second time I went in, and then all the cell time I did in my cell, I just sat there and I said to myself, went over all the stupid stuff I did when I was
And we're gonna now as we're in that conversation, so I'll share that because most people don't know that I went to Cranston University,
Mm,
right? So people like they say, "What do you mean Cranston U?" I said, "That's what I call it, Cranston U, right? You either go up there and learn to be good, or you go up there and learn to be bad when you come out, right?"
exactly.
So and I grew up around my dad, been in and out his whole life, so that's where I visited my father, family members, and like I was telling you earlier, people controlling your narrative. That's not even your community you come back to,
Yeah.
right? Like you come back to, like you feel like public perception, right? I got to live up to whatever they built of me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Over time, even when I was away, they were creating this person, so I got to come out and live.
Live up to
You know what I'm
that.
saying? That
Those
person.
standards.
And so even with my stint, I went in, I dealt with it, and I got family members like I couldn't believe he went and did a bullet right off the rip, and they're like, when I first there, it was like I was disconnected, like in my mind, like can't see my family. You know what I'm saying? I hear 4th of July fireworks from a distance, you know what I'm saying? And I'm talking to everybody through radio. Shout out to WBIU, you know what I'm saying? Gentle Touch and all the shout outs, you know what I'm
and
saying?
and, and, and
WBIU.
anybody and everybody and anybody in our shoes would co-sign that radio station in a heartbeat.
That radio station was a lifeline, right?
Damn
And
right it
to
was.
this day. And but yeah, so it's just I've been through it, and then but even when I went through it, still connecting even in that life, right? And I connected to some folks that could have tenfolded me in the industry I was that got me there,
Yeah,
or I'm gonna go a different direction, right? And what I'm saying is I take risks and take chance, and I'm hot headed. So that's
yeah.
why I said don't say stupid. We take risks. Like now I'm like, oh, fire. Let me say, oh, there's money in that fire.
Let me try to get it
I
up.
go with the right hand. Ah, that hurt. Well,
Yeah,
maybe if I try with the left hand, right? So that's kind of what that was, right? You're
yeah.
going to take the chance to try to get to that whatever that is that's driving you. Then you realize with two burnt hands, that's not going to work. You're gonna,
What some dudes be like, man, I still got 2 feet.
so,
I'm gonna keep trying.
exactly. Everyone else, and then someone throws me a lifeline that's positive in my circle,
Yeah.
gives me a bucket of water.
Mhm.
caught on there. Now I'm able to get that thing, and now it's like you didn't burn your hands. You didn't go through any trauma or turmoil,
Yeah.
right? He says you thought you were smarter, right? And that didn't cost you any time, whatever. So I think about that. That's like that positivity. Someone handing you a lifeline, hand up, right? And that's kind of what gave me focus, man. Just a support system. I'm saying I shout out everybody all the time. I'm gonna shout out my wife, my girl, who
Big shout
I'm
outs to
saying
her.
my girl because we've been together since teenagers,
Mm,
right? And but now she's my wife. She's been my wife for quite some time, and she grew up with the ails and angst with me. Right?
yeah,
She went through it with me. Like
yeah,
people don't realize that, like being together for so long, everything. You know what I'm saying? And so I want to shout out my wife because she's been really, really strong in keeping me
that's what's up.
as focused as possible. And we've been through it. We grew up together. We've
Mhm.
been through it, around it, and still like I think everyone knows you come to where it's peace and it's
Yeah,
cool. Nah, we still battle. Like I said, we still what I'm saying, but we just have a understanding now. So
yeah, and no, that and that's cool, man. And I want whoever's listening, whoever's watching this, to understand that man is a professional man, and name ring bells, but he's seen, lived, and went through what we've went through, or guys are continuing to go through. No one's perfect. That's the things we're speaking for. So now we're gonna go back to the community thing. And my question to you is, being through that, and this is probably way before my time when you walked in those shoes. Do you think there's a big difference, a big change in the help that Rhode Island is giving to individuals like us, and some of my watchers and some of my friends when they come home and they've been through this and they come home after a big chunk of time? Do you think there's a big difference from then till now with help, with resources? Do you think there's enough out there for us?
I think there's definitely some resources. I don't ever think there's enough, right? Because it's we've been put in a system that's been around for quite some
It
time.
ain't gonna go nowhere.
Exactly, and then you got these things that they're not quick fixes, right? So, I have an uncle. My dad has one own brother. He was in for a stint, 20 something years,
Mhm.
right? He's on home now. Shout out to my uncle. He's kind of introverted. He likes to watch TV.
Is it my boy?
You might know my uncle too. We
Big
might
O.
no. This is
Oh,
they call him down. They used to call him downtown Danny Brown,
probably seen
downtown.
my pride.
Yeah, he's a downtown. So yeah, my uncle's downtown. So he's like he'll stay in the house. He's introverted. Like he's
Yeah.
still almost like being in himself. He comes out once in a
Sometimes.
while, but he likes being to himself, right?
Mhm.
My uncle had hands. Anyone could tell you that he had hands. Like no one to mess with him, but he's out here now. And we have a different relationship because he kind of was stuck in time. So when he came out, he still treated me like when he went in. I'm like, dude, I'm a grown man. You know what I'm saying? It's like you need to just slow your roll,
And that's
right?
another thing I didn't like either. I
Yeah.
came home and there was a few heads that spoke to me as if I was still a teenager,
Yeah.
and I'm like, during that time I was in my 30s, so
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I just did a big ass chunk. I'm in my 30s. You're not gonna be talking to me
Yeah,
like this,
yeah.
bro.
So it's like, and I go through that with some family too, because they still see me as that young cousin. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Or you know what I'm saying? Or, and a young relative, and I'm like, dude, I'm near 50. I'll
Mm,
be 50 next year.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then they forget, well, damn, I'm like like almost 70. Like they start thinking, right? They don't want me to get older because that means they're getting older. But no, this it's and when going back to like I said, the accountability and what and resources. Like I said, there's not too many resources, and even when I was dealing with stuff, I ran into the roadblocks. Right? Like I tell everybody, I'm not a felon. There's a felony. There's a difference,
Yeah.
right? You know what I'm saying? I said, and the reason why I say that, no one can label me for the rest of my life for a mistake that I got caught doing and you didn't, right? Because I'm pretty sure there's plenty of people who did worse or something like me. The difference is they didn't get caught up in it, right?
Yeah.
And or they weren't as risky to keep putting their hand in the fire. They did it once, it's like, oh, I'm done, right? You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? So everyone's been in a situation. This is how you deal with it. And my thing is, if you're able to come out of it, even you, when you mentioned twice, where you at right now? Look what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Look where your
I never
mindset
thought in a
is.
million years.
Look where your mindset is now. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, it's taking this point and going forward. Don't let someone anchor you down. Don't let someone ever control your narrative. And that's kind of where I'm confident, not cocky or arrogant. You
Hmm.
can take it however you want because I'm okay with it. But I have this confidence, and that's helped me with my emotional intelligence. That's helped me with my insecurities. You know what I'm saying? But I do self reflect. I do look at insufficiencies that I have. You know what I'm saying? And try to correct them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And not for people, for
Mhm.
myself.
For
Right?
yourself,
You know,
exactly.
so it's
Because
dope.
when you correct it for yourself, it communicates back for the people. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So when you go sit on the boards for this, that, and the third, the way you are now and those mistakes that you corrected, it's gonna reflect. And that's why people are always like you just said, your people always want you to sit on this board and that board because they know your character. They respect your work. You know what I'm saying? They're not just gonna put a dummy on a board just for a vote. Maybe some do.
No, you got some tokenism.
Yeah.
It's like we need a little bit of pepper in the salt.
Yeah, but and that's the truth though.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
truth.
yeah,
I'm not gonna sugarcoat
yeah,
shit on
yeah.
this show. That's the truth
You
though,
got some token ones, and there was a quote. I might paraphrase it a little bit from Styles P. He said, I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want to be a product for my environment, which was dope, right? And I just recently watched it. Angie Martinez did something on ABC, the 50 Years of Hip Hop, and she interviewed him, and they were talking about mental health, and he shared on air he lost a child to suicide. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that
No
either.
one did like this in there,
That's crazy.
and it's like wow, like, and then obviously Master P was there because he also lost, you know, what I'm saying, a child to the same.
Mhm.
So we talk about mental health, and that affects a lot of us coming in here. Um, like even when you're dealing with those insecurities, that's a form of mental health. You know, and that's why I'm trying to deal with things on my own without being medicated because it will change my personality. Because I know I probably have ADHD, all the alphabets. You know what I'm saying? And it's like
Yeah.
I'm not. They said, "Well, have they diagnosed you? Have you been evaluated?" I know there's something
Yeah.
going
I
on
don't
with
need you to
me.
tell me.
Yeah, I know I was having issues watching the Three Stooges when I was young and reenacting what they're doing, jumping through tables and
You ain't the
stuff.
only one.
You know what I'm saying? So behavioral issues, you know, and I get it. When, like I said, self-reflecting, you start to notice
Yeah.
things in yourself, right? And so you try to course correct, fix it, you know what I'm saying? Fix it yourself. And I'm sharing all this because I'm trying to get others to do the same. Just take accountability for your actions and what you do. I have to, you
But that's
have
the
to.
first thing though.
Yep, is take accountability and ownership of it,
Mhm.
right? And then what do you want to do to fix it for yourself? You know what I'm saying? Not for anyone else, not your spouse,
Exactly.
your kids, you know what I'm saying? Your parents really have to figure out yourself first before you can move forward.
So I have one of my boys, he asked me a while ago when I first started the podcast, and he said, Yo, you bring up the topic of housing because way it's set up, I don't know about any other state, but the way it's set up in the state, it's very hard for guys like us to come out here. I hit you up before
Yep.
for a friend.
Yep.
Hey, you know anybody who's renting but not doing BCI checks?
Yep.
Because that's the brick wall that all of us runs into. Yes, we can have the good job and make the money and stuff and for the rent, but once the BCI goes in, we're screwed. So then what?
It's interesting you say that because just like with the because they have banned the box, right? Where they're not supposed to ask if you have a felony charge when you
Yeah,
apply for a job. That was a policy change, right? That was something that put through in policy. I think even I'm not an expert on housing, so I'm gonna put somebody that is. Kyle Bennett is Housing First from United Way.
oh, I met him.
Yep.
Yep,
So
he's a
Kyle
cool
can
cool
answer a
guy.
lot of questions. He's really about if you don't have stable housing, nothing else is stable, right? So he's a really a big advocate and expert in that lane. There's a lot of housing experts out there. Well, how I look at it from my perspective is like when you have policy change. I think HUD before you couldn't live in public housing or be on the lease if you had a
A
felony
charge,
charge or
yeah.
whatever, right? I know now that's changed. Like there's it's certain. I guess it's like how we get classified. You know what I'm saying? It's certain felonies. 'Cause that was one of the issues coming out here versus inside. When you're inside, you're classified. You know, like they put you based on your crime and your
Yep.
time. Out here, they just blanket unless it's a sex offense, you know, a sex offense. That's the only time
Yeah,
where
they put
you're,
you on
you know,
blast.
what I'm saying. But other than that,
As they
everyone
should.
exactly. But everyone else is violent crime, non-violent crime. I said they kind of deal you like a deck of cards inside the prison system. But out here, everyone's just thrown in a pile,
Mhm.
right? So you're treated the same. And sometimes when it comes to the housing, it's like the amount of time. I said, yeah, I did that 40 years ago.
Yeah.
I did that 30 years ago. I had an uncle who had 80 years of like probation suspended time. He got a degree and everything, and I'm like,
But they don't look at that.
he still couldn't do certain things,
Exactly.
right? So my thing is Talk about policy change. They had the probation reform, right? So that can reduce your probation if you were eligible based on this criteria. And I'm gonna share. I got sentenced to 20 years my first charge, right? And I was supposed to go away for 3 years. That's what it was, and I served just over a year, right? And then on the bracelet. So I'm just doing. I'm out here on probation, doing all this stuff in community. I can't get certain things done. I can't even get it expunged because this is the problem with Rhode Island. If they gave you a 20 years suspended, you can't start the expungement process until you're done serving,
Yeah.
right? And you're still serving even when you're out here. People don't realize that you're still serving a sentence, those probation. So 30 years I would be eligible. I
Yeah.
had to finish the 20, but the reason why I'm getting to the probation reform, I went to teach in the women's prison
Oh, okay.
and I had to get cleared.
Mm.
So the warden's like, you're eligible for, I'm saying, termination of your probation. I said, I am. Right. I didn't think nothing of it. Mind you, this law was out, right? They put this through. I had no clue. That's another
They don't
issue.
let anybody know.
Exactly. So that's another issue. So I'm like, really, if I wasn't in that situation, I wouldn't have known.
Exactly.
So they end up going through the process. I got it done. So now my eligibility for expungement started from then because now I didn't have to wait the whole 20 years.
Yeah.
I still have to wait the timeline. I was like, Juan, you're a perfect candidate, right? To get your, I'm saying, get it expunged. I said, yeah, but based on the way the law is now, that doesn't happen. And the reason why I'm saying that going into housing, identifying policies that block folks, I'm saying, that are coming in our situation from housing, right? Housing is an issue for everybody right now. So I'm not just saying with I'm saying, not clean BCIs, that makes it even worse, but housing and inventory is an issue for everybody. Housing affordability is an issue for
Yeah.
everybody.
A lot of
So
people
that's
too.
on top of saying what's going on. But my thing is policy change. Like, what is it that blocks, like you said, what is it that stops us from getting houses or housing because we have blemishes on our BCI? So what is that blockage? And then you got to target that. You got to figure out how do we remove it from a policy perspective, not favors for people. Right?
Yeah,
How do you
yeah.
do it as so everyone's taken care
I
of?
think well, to me, I think it's probably very hard because you're targeting homeowners, which is a private thing, and you're gonna tell them, okay, well, you have no choice. You gotta let in whoever.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
It
It's
depends.
hard.
So you talk about transitional housing, right? They
Yeah.
have transitional housing, and it doesn't always have to be Amos House and Crossroads, right?
And that's the thing. I talked to my boy earlier about it, and I said, before I came home, I used to be like, damn, I hope they accept my home letter parole because my folks still live in the hood, and
Mhm.
I don't know if they want me to go back there because basically when you make parole, everybody's fingers crossed on job letters and home letters, and hopefully that they accept it,
Yeah.
and you won't know until like last minute, and they're like, oh, there's something wrong with your home letter, or whatever. We're not accepting. Can you find another one? We'll see you next month. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like it's hard. So um everybody's like, "Oh, you should go to this program or that program." Bro, I just lived here for 15 years around nothing but dudes. I don't want to get out here and go live with more dudes. I want to go home, you know what I'm
And the
saying?
other issue is say you weren't a user, but for you to get benefits, you had to say you were a user. Right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like
Exactly,
if I'm gonna get
exactly.
I said I'm not an addict, but if I want to go into this transitional house or
Yeah, I
whatever,
smoke crack.
yeah, it's like I'm a crackhead, right? I say you
Exactly.
gotta pretend to something to get certain things,
And
right?
it's sad,
Yeah,
man.
and so I get it. That's why I'm like these are like a triage. I talked to a program years ago about when you come into reentry, having because I'm familiar with open doors, right? It used to be family services. They were on Broad Street, and they actually used my case. And one of Benny Ellis, I want to shout out Andres. Andres is an attorney, went through the system, went to Brown, went to Yale after he got out of prison,
Mm.
and now he's an attorney.
What's his last name?
Inaugurera. That's if I'm pronounced. He's Colombian.
Okay.
So shout out to Andres, even though he's in Miami. What's up? Um, Andre asked me. He said, "Mom, would you be part of the campaign to restore the right to vote?" I said, "Sure." He goes, "We're gonna use your case." So they use my case because I'm doing what I'm doing, and we end up getting our right to vote. A lot of fellas don't
And I
know that
remember when
either.
that happened.
So my first time voting was for Obama. So it was nostalgic for me. It was like this is
First
dope,
black president.
and yeah, you know what I'm saying. So but that was like I said, that was a policy change, right? That was something because it's like I had taxation without representation, right? In other words, you tax me, but I have no right to vote on where you put my tax dollars.
Exactly.
So that was one of the issues. So the reason why I'm saying is you gravitate towards where that issue is. Yeah, it's hard. No one said it's easy because these are systems that have been in place for a long time. But you got to remember, I said staying consistent.
Mhm.
You have to stay consistent and persistent.
Yeah.
And I say, and don't give up, right?
Yeah.
Like so, and I was like, why should I have to do that? Then who's going to do it? You either going to sit here and complain about it not being done, or you going to, what I'm saying, put the work in.
Well, most people do that though.
Yeah, and that's why they come on deaf ears with me. I said, group, I'll help as much as I can, but I can't do. Then they're like, Juan, can you do it? No,
Yeah.
no, and I'm like, no, I can help tee you up and you know what I'm saying, do my part, but you got to take it the rest of the way.
You gotta keep pushing
Yeah,
yourself, man.
yeah,
You can't half-ass shit because
yeah,
nothing's ever gonna get done if you're not aboard.
yeah.
You know?
I just had a disagreement last night too. The same thing. Oh, they always say you're in this situation. You got these people. You know these people. I had to build this. And it drop in my lap.
Yeah.
I wasn't someone who came from people from a position of affluence. You know
Like
what I'm saying?
a silver spoon
Yeah,
in
like
your mouth.
that wasn't my situation. I
Yeah.
just made do with what I had, and then I want it better, right? And not just for myself. That's why I do community. 'Cause
Yeah.
if I want it better for myself, I wouldn't be doing anything community.
And same thing for me. I didn't meet like I didn't. I met a guy like you, a person like you, or people like you, who who to like I was like your uncle. I just like to stay in my lane,
Yeah.
and I've gone to events like this, like yours, because of Pin.
Yep.
You know,
I'm shouting out Pin. I
you
said
know,
because Pin got led me to this situation. You know what I'm
and
saying?
I
Introduced
appreciate
me
it.
to you, and so I just want to definitely shout. I always should do the shout outs because I just there's a post coming up about giving people their flowers now,
Mm,
right, versus when they're gone, right?
exactly.
So I'm always
The
gonna
recognition when
yeah
they're
give
here to
them
see
here
it.
so they can feel it
Exactly.
and see it. But go ahead. I'm
No, that's big
sorry.
facts. So
Yeah.
no, but if it wasn't for that of me coming out my shell, actually just going and experiencing and running into people I know too, it's like, oh shit, okay, you come here too, or just like when she did the thing for her job, she had a setup at Juneteenth.
Hmm.
Um, I went to pick her up, but I went real quick. I really didn't want to go. 'Cause, I know it's gonna be crazy
Yeah.
traffic and stuff, but when I got to, I'm like, ooh, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and I seen so many dudes I know from the inside, and I was trying to avoid having to shake everybody's hand.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, hurry up, pack up, let's go. You know what I'm saying? But no, but the event was tight. You
Yeah.
know, like I just seeing how the setup was and everybody came
It's like a
out.
giant cookout family reunion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like bro, it was it's what the city needs. And what's that? The second year
No, that's their 5th year.
or
So they've
fifth
been
year?
but it's like it's the second, like, major year where they've been showing growth. Like, it's been
Yeah.
good coming out of after, COVID. But yeah, it was the 5th year. Shout out to Helen Dukes and the Juneteenth RI committee. Helen calls me the brat because she's known me since I was teenager. And, but yeah, man, this speaking of Juneteenth, that was another thing, pushing legislation to make it a paid holiday.
Yep,
You know
yep.
what I'm saying? Worked on that over a year and a half ago. And Helen, shout out, this is another thing. Helen gave me my flowers, even though I wasn't behind the camera, like, I mean, like in front of the camera and all that stuff. She gave me my flowers on when I talked to her about starting this initiative to get it done. And then I was on record last year at the State House saying, get this done. Representative who sponsored the bill, Representative Henrys, and shout out to Senator Tiara Mack. They're the ones who actually put the bill in and pushed it through, man. And I screenshot everything. We had like a Facebook inbox with the senator, the rep, Helen, all the other supporters. And
Yeah.
anytime there was a movement, I would, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? When do we have the hearing? When's the next day? Because they're funny on the Hill. Like, they'll tell you, come testify at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday. Where you at? No, most people are at work.
Yeah.
Right. So how am I going to be there? Right. And they just told you like the night before. So you
Mm.
ain't got time to take time off.
See, that's what
You know, so, so
they trying to silence you.
so I put it out, and that's just, I'm sharing. Oh, she's in one. It's not. It's gonna be Wednesday. She's telling me Monday. I screenshot, put it up, let people know come support how they can support, and it's kept doing that. Even got petitions, people to sign, like keeping people aware of it, and we got it through. You know what I'm saying? We got it through. So that's community. That wins for community. We end up going through the House. It was 67 votes, no nos. 67 yes, zero nos. And then it went to the representatives, 65 yeses. So unanimously it went through and then the governor signed it. And it's a paid holiday. People don't understand that paid holiday means because I kept screaming, yes, it's a significant holiday for African Americans or liberated slaves. I think that's some bull. We won't get into that right now, but for that time, it is. So anyways, so we fast forward, it's a paid holiday, it's an American holiday, right? So now every year, starting next year, the state workers get paid to have the day off without it being a float one. They don't have
You
to
know what the
trade it.
sad part is?
Yep.
Even though that's a huge movement and a huge thing that has happened for our state,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't even know what Juneteenth
Exactly.
is.
Exactly.
A lot of people don't know.
Yeah, and
Big Trap want to shout you out.
what up? What
You a
up?
good man. Keep up the hard work,
Appreciate
and
it.
it's
Appreciate
on
it.
us, which is facts. It's on us.
Definitely. That's shout out to Boo Hackney. You know what I'm saying? Because he always told me
Right, I
that.
seen
Yeah.
him at your event.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
I
Boo
remember.
always Boo got awarded. You know what I'm saying? I had to give Boo his try. But you're right, like that holiday. And some people came at me, wow, why you we got other issues? Why you worry about a holiday? I said, there's other I said, one, we celebrate us, right? Two, it's also about economics. And they're like, what do you mean it's economics? I said, so the weekend of Juneteenth, what do you think people are buying? Juneteenth t-shirts, ethnic food,
They
soul
don't think about the
food.
long run.
Exactly. I said now you have black businesses that can actually benefit from this long weekend from
Facts.
everybody
Facts.
indulging in our culture, right? And indulging in our history. But I don't want to always just commercialize it too, right? I said that you also want to know the history of it. I actually learned, shout out to Melissa husband, about Juneteenth through her because it was her birthday. June 19th is her
Oh,
birthday. And she says, yeah, and she explained to me about 2 years after the fact, the emancipation that, you know what I'm saying, in Texas, Galveston, Texas, they weren't free.
yeah.
They pretty much ignored it, right? Because they weren't giving up their slaves. And I tell everybody it's an economic thing. Most expensive cost in the business is mostly your payroll,
Yeah.
right? They're talking about free labor. Right? That's like the most. It's about economics. They had years and years, hundreds of free labor to build the wealth that they have. That's why they're so far ahead, right? So it's like, so what do we do now? We can't change that. So what do we do to change our situation moving forward?
So I want to touch base on another thing. Want to get your opinion. You live in a whole new era at it because kids nowadays they're into so many different things that we look at as probably weird. As if when I was a kid, what I was into, my parents didn't like,
The same
especially
thing. It's the same thing.
yeah.
Generations, they're different. Yep.
So with that I'm saying all that about change and stuff like that. What do you think about policing, especially in Rhode Island? Do you think it got worse, or do you think that they have changed from how it was before with the community work, how professional they can be or are, or do you think there's still a disconnect?
Definitely a disconnect.
Still a
So
disconnect.
so so I'm one who grew up not liking the police because of where I came from, right?
Hmm.
So, and I think there's a difference between protect and serve and law enforcement, right? I think mostly they're set up for law enforcement. You know what I'm saying? So I think they're set up mostly for law enforcement. So when they're enforcing the law, I don't think they're thinking about protect and serve, especially in certain communities.
So it's protect and serve themselves,
Exactly, or protect and serve
their
certain
kind,
communities,
their
right?
kind.
So like now in Providence is law enforcement because they're not from Providence, right?
Yeah.
Or they go back home, it's, you know what I'm saying, it's protect and serve, like their domicile where they're from. You know what I'm saying, like
Mhm.
their cookouts with their peers, towns, right? And and the issue I see is a lot of law enforcement. Some of them come from where they don't have the emotional intelligence. They dealt with some things that we did, except they chose one direction, we chose another, right?
Yeah.
So you have somewhere they've been bullied. So like I knew you used to get beat up as a kid.
Mm.
Now all of a sudden they got the
It's payback
badge.
time.
You know what I'm saying? They got the badge. It's like, hey, he's Superman now, or
Yeah.
Superwoman now, and that's that emotional intelligence, and there's very few officers, and I don't want to say all of them, that I still have this stereotype, just like they do of me, right? The stigma. But there's one officer I'm going to shout out. You know what I'm saying? It's Anthony Robeson, who's the colonel now in Central Falls. Originally from I think Hartford Projects, grew up in
Oh
Hartford
wow.
Projects.
That's what's up.
Went to the rank of detective here in Providence. But he came from the community, grew up in the community. I met him as a cop,
Mm.
and I don't trust cops, right? So I
Mm.
met him as a cop. Shout out to Boo and Kev at It's Here because he used to always come to the barber shop, and he was part of the community. He did the workshops that I did with Turn Up. He was one of the workshop presenters. Um, He's the one who actually had me bring the youth summit to Central Falls. Like, he's done some community stuff as an officer, and I actually respected him. So
Yeah.
I respect your position because you didn't come bullying me. You didn't come like demanding it because you have a badge, right?
Mhm.
He earned the respect as a man, I'm saying, building that relationship, and I respect his position. I don't ever want to put him in a position where he has to compromise being an officer, right? But I also know I'm not going to talk too much around you because you're still cop. I always say that to you, right? But yeah,
Limitations.
but I don't. Reason why I'm using him as an example because he's training community policing. And
Okay.
what does community policing look like? Not one community officer that's designated to the community and the rest ain't. That's
Mhm.
not community policing.
Exactly.
It needs to be instilled in every academy, every officer, I'm saying, cultural competency, understanding the community you're in.
Mm.
And Anthony gave me an example. He was working on a case in Hartford, and two police officers ride by, and they asked him like, "How are you so familiar with the saying the community? Why are they so cool with you?" Blah blah blah. He said, "Get out the car.
Do some footwork.
Get off the car."
Talk
He's
to people.
stop patrolling. That's overseer. That's like the overseer on the horse that used to, saying, control it.
Mhm.
It's the same thing with the cop car. Like that whole prowling and flashing lights and saying, like that's not building community, that's enforcing. Enforcing looking for something. You got a chip
Yeah.
on your shoulder. Like I said, from being a bully, it's like these are the kids that used to bully you in school. They came from these projects.
Mhm.
Now I'm the one who's in control, right? It's a power thing. So I think mental health, mental evaluations need a part of it. They need to be screened when you're because we need it. Because if anything happens, we're gonna call a cop.
Yeah.
Like if we're in a situation where we're going, it's like want to be real with it. You know what I'm saying? But I said I just don't like sometimes the power that they have and in their perception and the training. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? But beyond the training, are they really right to be in that position to
Yeah,
be an
because they
officer?
always think that we're the one with the mental issues or whatever. See, they play the mind games, and I'm gonna say it again. Like I said before, um, uh, I'm not anti-police. I'm anti-bad policing. And I speak about this because so much of the stuff I've learned by watching you. I watch all the auditors, constitutional auditors, and now being so much more educated on my rights, the rights that we all have, the equal rights, not just your rights because you're a cop is going to trump my rights.
Mhm.
It's the same rights. We have to we follow the same under the same constitution. And a lot of people have to understand that, And I ask you that because I believe in the same thing. I know. I mean, after being away for almost 20 years, yes, there's still a disconnect with police and community. They are bullies. They ride around like you said on their high horse, which is their patrol cars, instead of working the beat, walking the beat, and being a community cop. Because at the end of the day, we have to remember, they have to remember who work for the people. They're not my God, aren't my slave master. You
Exactly.
know what I mean? And a lot of
Officer, overseer,
mm,
right? So it's like when you say the overseer. And I know we got the wrap up notice, so I
yeah.
wanna touch base on the title real quick. Remember, I said we need to educate some folks on why you titled, what I'm saying, the podcast
Yep.
this title, and give them that acronym. So what's the title?
So I named today's podcast "Community Revolution in Progress." Which, if you a Crip who knows his history, then you know that's what Crip stands for. And I'm a Crip, we Asian Crips, but a lot of us are not educated to certain extents that we should be. And I learned this through reading through all my years in prison. I learned so many things, and not even just about being a Crip, um, Bloods, Latin Kings, Mexican Mafia, whatever. I read so many books, just like my brothers that's been behind the fences and walls with me. We stay on the education path. Knowledge is power. Whether it is like I'm not a big fan of fiction. I like to read about history. I like to read about organizations, the rise and falls, stuff like that, man, because it is good knowledge to know, especially if you're a part of something. It's good to know how it started, where it came from, where is it going, or how it died out, whatever the case may be. So I call today Community Revolution in Progress because every day we should be pushing this revolution to better everything for ourselves. Can't sit back and complain and just hope that something's going to change. You got to be out there and you got to give some of you and help your community also.
June, I appreciate it. That's why I want before we wrapped up, I wanted to touch on that.
Hmm.
So, because I didn't know, right? I
Yeah.
said you just schooled me on it when we got in here. I'm like, that's dope. You know what I'm saying? Like, because everyone always has the. I said we polarize the negative sides of things, right?
Hmm.
Everything has its good and bad, and you know what I'm saying, give and takes. And so I want to highlight the positive sides of it, right? Like I said, there's family in that, right? There's unity in that, right? And then having a common goal, but as we don't always have to go through what we went through to get there,
Yeah.
right? Like I said, when we're blessed. I tell people every time I wake up, thank you for that wake up, and not to wake up on for parole. I got 4 months to wake up, right? No, I'm talking about waking up, just being blessed for life, right? Having a
Definitely.
day to start something new, yeah, reset something, right? And I don't mean reset because I don't like going backwards, but just readjust, realign, right? Moving forward. And that's why I appreciate the invite. You know what I'm saying? Like coming in
Yeah.
here, talking, and but I wanted to get people to understand that, like when you hear Crip, Bloods, Latin Kings, automatically is a negative situation,
You
right?
just think about the bad side.
But not understanding where the origin is,
Hmm.
right? I say yes, it turned into some other issues, and that's because some other factors put it in that situation. The conversation we just talked about. That's all. We can also name that too. Bloods, Crips, Latin Kings, Police, the Brotherhood, the FOP. You know what I'm saying? Like that's another brotherhood, right?
Yep.
They just have a badge. You know what I'm saying on the side, but
They all gangs, man.
exactly. So I'm saying you just gotta look at it and so I said, but the difference between them and they took an oath. I didn't, right?
Exactly.
But yeah, man, if we can find some commonality in the humanity, regardless of all the human rights, civil rights, and all others, I mean, you know what I'm saying, those type of rights, but it's the humanity in people and looking at people like, say, like a man, like a woman,
Hmm.
like however you identify, but just respecting, you know what I'm saying, a person's space, you know what I'm saying, and just wanting the best for them, then we can be good. I know that's very kumbaya, but
No,
that's how
it's
I live my life now.
you know what, JJuan, is you get what you give out.
Exactly.
So I might not know who you are, but a lot of people shake my hand, don't know who I
Yeah.
am until maybe you see the podcast or
Yeah.
maybe later on we actually built with each other and I hinted it to you where I came from. And then it's like, all right, should I stop talking to him?
Yeah.
Or and a lot of them, so they be like, yo, that's what's up, man.
Yeah.
Yo, you're doing the right thing. Everybody's so positive. Nobody's talking down
They
on
say
me.
you controlling your narrative. Like now, I control like sharing what I share. I probably just expose people like, oh, is this? Yeah, because I don't lead with it.
Hmm.
That was a
Now let's
hiccup.
see them all if they change.
Yeah, and if they do, that's on them.
Their
That's
loss.
their loss. You know what I'm
Their
saying?
loss.
So I'm good with that. Like that's why I said I'm at a point where that was a long time ago.
Hmm.
Growing up, growing pains. You know what I'm saying? Dealing with and not making excuses. Right? There's no excuse. I gotta you know what I'm saying deal with what the consequences of what I did. Right?
Exactly.
But you're not gonna sit here and hold it against me all the
Mhm.
time because I don't. If you hold it against me, you're not part of my circle. You're not part of my solution and moving forward.
Yeah,
Right? So I'm good.
exactly. You're
I'm
still
good.
stuck on the problem,
Yep.
and the problem you moved on from the problem.
Yep.
And this man right here, rap sheet from community work and the work that he's done with so many people is crazy long. Resume is strong. He's the face of the community, one of the many. You know what I'm saying? And we need more people like him. That's why I asked him to come onto the show and speak a little bit on what he's done um, and a little bit about himself. Obviously, time, self and essence. I want to thank you for coming on.
Appreciate it.
I don't know if you want to shout anybody out before we
No,
sign off.
I said that's why I said I did it in between. I said you can't. It was, you didn't mention me. You didn't mention me. That's it's like you know you're in thoughts, right? But
Mhm.
and like I said, even I talked a little bit about myself, but it's more about just giving some inspiration, right? Just
Yeah,
get inspiring others, like how I got to where I'm doing, and how others can get there. And yeah, I'm reachable. You know what I'm saying? Because I know most people say, give me your socials. Where did they get at you at? It's Jwan the brand everywhere. JJuan everywhere from I'm only mostly on Facebook because I'm old. That's what my daughter says. She says, "You're on Facebook is old," but you can reach me there, man. Ask some questions and see what we can do.
and you just got you and a bunch of other people just got back to mid, midnight
Midnight
basketball league.
basketball, Rhode Island Midnight
And where's
Basketball
it gonna
Leagues.
be at though?
So it's going to be Kent County,
Kent County.
Kent County YMCA. So as soon as you get off
Oh,
and walk, so it's Kent County YMCA. There's 3 courts there. There's a giant field. So the YMCA is
so it's
providing
not
a
even in the
space.
hood.
Well, there's a reason because you have a new mayor right now
We
that
I want to touch base on
yeah,
our
but
man.
we're going to end on that. But we got a new mayor, and like this, things are too new.
Yeah.
So the goal is to bring. We always wanted to bring it statewide.
They want to
Right?
see how it is first.
Yeah, so we're testing out here. They don't have. We don't care. That's why we can do it there because the YMCA. Shout out to the YMCA. Shout out to Kobe Dennis. You know what I'm saying? Putting this back together. Shout out to the originators of the Rhode Island Midnight Basketball League. It wasn't Rhode Island, which was done in the hood when I was in the
Buckland.
in the 80s. You know, Buckland, Billy Taylor Park. Like I grew up with it. But this is a reincarnation. You know what I'm saying? They're playing out in Kent County because that's where we have access, right?
Yeah.
But going forward, we want to come back into Providence. We want to go statewide. That's the goal, but we got to try to set it because there's no funding, so it comes, it goes, comes and goes. We're trying to make sure that it has a foundation where it doesn't go.
And the thing, and I'm gonna tell you guys right now, to whoever's listening, whoever's gonna be watching this and listen, this program, this type of program, if y'all want this to be around for a long time, up to you guys to keep it around because they waiting. These police is waiting for you to pick up these guns and do a stupid shooting, a stabbing, whatever the case, and they're gonna get rid of it. You know what I'm saying? So all these programs can only come about if you guys are really on board to keep it around.
And I'm gonna give you this: you get to play with them.
Mm-hmm.
So Providence Police has a team. Rhode Island Stadies have a team.
Go.
Cranston has a team.
Go show them what
Exactly.
Go show them what you're made of
On the court, one thing we have in common is like being competitive on that court. All that other stuff is thrown out.
Game.
You know what I'm saying? Come in. So that's the thing. Like you get to participate and play. You know what I'm saying? And then it just puts you in a different light. Both of them. You know what I'm saying? Both are in different lights because you have something common in sports, right? And then playing, you can show off here and there. And it's I think it's dope camaraderie and I'm saying a chance to you know saying reach across the aisle and like it just helps you kind of put your stereotypes away like because there's gonna be good and bad cops. Period. Just like
it gives you guys a chance to dunk on these.
Yeah, and
pull up and dunk on them.
Exactly. Just outscore them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, they have some teams and so
show your skills.
Yeah.
Show what you're made of. You know what I'm saying? Like really what you're made of.
But if you don't play, come and support the other, you know what I'm saying, that play. Like just come and egg them on.
And when's it starting?
We start tip off is 6 p.m. July 11th, Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
Yep, next Tuesday. So it's every Tuesday and Thursday, from 6 to 11. You know what I'm saying? And we have WRAMBL, which is the women's Rhode Island Midnight Basketball League. They got the off the couch division, which is for all those little elder basketball players, and then they got almost pro. So and then almost pro.
I'm gonna just be watching them boys. Probably will play with off the couch.
But June, this was dope.
Definitely. I appreciate it, JJuan, for pulling up on me. I want to give a shout out to Heat Feet 401, 285 Park Ave. Go see my people for their heat for your feet. D&M Mini Mart over there on Prairie Ave and D&M Towing. Hit up my peoples for any car troubles. Just sending my love to everybody. I appreciate everybody for tuning in again. Shows is only gonna get better. I'm still new to this, but I'm still trying. Every day, that's what we need to do. Just keep trying.
This is dope. The setup in here is dope. This is got a studio. This ain't no makeshift. This is good, man. This is dope.
This is where it's at. And shout out to Raul, Los, and Migs, man, for making this possible. I appreciate everybody. And until next episode, I see you guys. Thank you for showing us some support and love. And subscribe. Go smash that subscribe button and like and share on the Fence 401.